All right, Chief. So we are looking at the situation, the prelude to your emergence as the President General UMUERI, the tenures before you. Yes, and you were saying there had been a sequence of elected government, then an inability to hand over to another elected government, an interregnum followed, usually filled by a caretaker committee, then another elected government, and then another caretaker committee. What would you say has been responsible for this sequence, this seeming inability to continuously elect peaceful transition from one elected government to the other? What would you say has been responsible for this?
I have told you that the same person that is now the Igwe is responsible for those planting in of caretaker committees. The government, the government cannot sit at Oka and just impose a caretaker committee to any community if you did not request it, especially well-meaning people.
I'm not comfortable with the thought that we have established that there has been a sequence over several tenures of a sequence of elected government handing over to caretaker committee to elected government over a sequence over time before yours and it's playing out now. When you begin to say that all that was done by the Igwe, it begins to sound to me like the case of a snowball in Animal Farm, and saying that every bad thing that happened, it was done by snowball, and every good thing was done by Napoleon, if that's the sequence. Or is it not beginning to sound a bit like that? I mean, doesn't it try credibility to say that over the years, the inability for UMUERI to transit from one elected government to the other.
You are looking for the truth.
Yes, but I'm trying to understand.
I'm not a compendium of that truth. You can also sound the minds of other elites. Okay? So not all the people all the time is what made us not to hand over. The election has been prepared. We have endorsed. Suddenly we come, a letter came from Oka. From who? Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs.
That's this current one.
This current one?
This current one.
Yes.
What about the one before?
That's what I'm telling you now. The one before was
the elected government before you could not hand over to an elected government.
The Henry administration.
The transition was from a caretaker committee to yours.
Yes.
So it is not strange. If I was blaming you for inability to hand over to an elected government, I can't blame you now because I see that your predecessors, your elected predecessors, were similarly unable to hand over to elected governments. Yeah, so there is something that we really need to find out in our community that has been doing this.
You are missing a very important link.
Yes.
If you relax your mindset,
yes,
you may pick it up.
By God's grace.
We are in a panel of inquiry that he will drag us to at Oka.
Currently.
Yes.
Yes.
Then the lawyer to UGA now wrote to this so-called caretaker, now we will not hand over to you until an election is done. Or until the panel winds up and comes up with their white paper. But we had this opportunity to do that election. Organized, electoral college formed, all agencies paid, government and other agencies of government like police, DSSS, and all.
At the conclusion of your tenure?
Yes.
Okay, you are ready to hand over.
Do the election now.
Yes.
Then Igwe now brought in this caretaker committee and made a mechanic chairman against a former commissioner under Ngige, Joe Izora. Is it not an aberration? Can you imagine that? Engineers that were in that list were subtracted, and a mechanic, man, a mechanic about trained mechanics.
No, sir. I think on behalf of the people of UMUERI, I should take an exception to that. How would you class me? I'm a craftsman.
If you are, no, yeah,
a mechanic. I'm not far removed from a mechanic myself. I'm an artist.
Okay.
I work with my hands. So if you are feeling that a mechanic,
an illiterate mechanic, illiterate mechanic, if you want that definition, if it's not the case, if it is not the case that a mechanic is a bad thing, no. Yes. Engineers, mechanical engineers are there. Pilot engineers are there. There are mechanics too.
Are you saying, sir, that a mechanic cannot accumulate the wisdom necessary to?
If you have
the requirement for presidency of Nigeria is it secondary school cert or something?
School cert.
Yes.
The guy doesn't have a school cert.
He's not running for president of Nigeria. It's a community. It's not even state governor.
By the time somebody will put a school cert against graduates, handwork of man. It shows the mental state of that person.
Are you saying, sir, that the previous PGs of this community have been graduates?
Yes.
All the previous PGs of this community have been graduates.
Graduate BDK graduated from University of Nigeria and Nsukka. Henry graduated from University of is that Michigan or Louisiana in the US. We were contemporaries there.
Yes.
Okay, while I was in Texas. Yes. Then Vincent, even as a caretaker committee chairman, is a finished accountant. Okay. Then Chico Dili, of course, is a builder. That's a building technologist. Yes. Put it that way. So they are all tertiary. They reach that tertiary level.
Even then, just before this UGA, the government of UMUERI was being run by the Irunano, by the age grades, and it's my father and these people. They were stark illiterates.
We are not going back to
but they gave us good government. Some of the signal achievements of this community came under them. Yes. Stark illiterates who are not even mechanics.
I hear you very well, because nature endowed them with reasoning. Go to UMUERI and see how some guys are reasoning there. Just take a look. You are free. You are mixing apples and oranges. Instead of advancing, we are going back gradually to Stone Age. That is not development.
So are you recommending that academic achievement will now become a condition for
handling any post?
Yes.
Yes.
You are recommending that?
Yeah, because if I don't, I've rubbished my own background. Oh yes, I invested in human capital, and I'm a beneficiary of that, and I will have no regrets. So if you have kids, train them. If you don't like education, try illiteracy, and you see the result.
And that's M. Kabiola. He said, if you think education is expensive, you try illiteracy, try ignorance. Okay. So now. I was asking what you felt was responsible for this inability, serial inability, for one elected government in UMUERI to hand over to another. So that your inability to hand over to an elected government was not a reflection on your competence or anything. It is a tradition that has been, I think it's something we need to break.
We are at the breaking point.
Yes, with something we need to break.
We need to break it
now.
Yes,
I agree with you.
That's why we are fighting to see that we have an election come 27th. Okay? Yes. Well, the commissioner has interviewed myself and the Igwe together in his office just recently. I said we have 27 days, because it was the last day of November, to prepare for this election. The contestants are known. They have campaigned.
You mean the contestants, people have been campaigning?
They have
Will such campaigning not be illegal?
No, they have campaigned. Past tense.
Yes.
They have campaigned.
Yes.
That's what I said. Yes. Okay.
Are you saying, sir, that you know the people who will likely come out for this now
we
if
know
elections
them now.
were?
We know them. They are not. They've been screened. They have gone through the electoral college.
That is when you are preparing to for election at that time. Yes, but that is now. That's
no,
now,
it's not. You can't beat it. You can't. A caretaker cannot.
Are you saying, sir, that if we are to have an election on 27th, we will simply revive, we'll simply wipe away this past year and just go back in time to the moment?
None of the contestants is dead. The thing is for NEI to produce a PG. Okay. That is their.
I think that is one that's agreed about. It is for Neyi
Thank you.
to proceed, because time has passed, and some people that were interested in 2019 might not be interested now, and some people that were not interested in 2019 might come up now. So what are you going to do about them if we say that just
no? If it is agreed, it will be in a meeting. Okay. Yes. If they agree, the NEI people, that they need new contestants, so be it. But NEI has already decided among themselves
about whom
they want.
Yes. For the PG.
Then
so there's not going to be elections.
No, wait. That will be none. But some people now went back to those that failed to win within that their committee, selected committee group. Yes. And now started asking them, why did you agree? Come and contest. So some that failed are now on board, contesting. But it is us that we vote, including them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There are no knowns. I don't need to begin to mention anybody's name, because this is not a campaign stuff. Yes. There are no knowns now. Let this happen at the field, just like it happened and they matched.
Yes.
You know, so look, if you love something, have the mind to set it free.
Yes.
If it comes back to you,
it's yours. If it doesn't,
it never was.
Yes.
And that is democracy for you, man.
Yes.
We have reached that stage. The idea of truncating elections when it comes close, because maybe you think your candidate will not win. But why the way? As a traditional ruler, are you supposed to have a candidate? Are all the people not your subjects?
But you saw my interview with His Majesty. I asked him pointedly whether I had a candidate. He said no. I pressed him. I said I was going to be his candidate.
You were not at the meeting last time. Maybe you came late. When he was saying that I have a candidate, he has a candidate. And I used that before the commissioner. I said, Commissioner, please advise our Igwe not to use his mouth and say that he has a candidate. And he wanted to argue. The commissioner told him that I'm correct, that he should learn from that. These are facts. If you want, I can give you the commissioner's number. You can call him and interview him and ask him point blank. Under the traditional rulers code, you are not supposed to have a candidate. You may have sympathy for A, okay, but not to to campaign for him or to give him money to buy votes if votes are buyable. You know, like again, if you're the game ma, mana ibulo onye isi oburu ife obuna ka ị ga-eme oburu ife obuna ka ị ga-etinye aka na ya.
Yes, naturally. Naturally.
O tinyere aka enwe, and that aka enwe mesi ọ ga na-afụ ya na mfu ya. I'm telling you. Okay, if I mellow unconditionally, tabuvu, buaga, buonsi, buaja, threats. Dalo, unu azụ am robbers, unu azụ thugs. Ajechikwala Abuja, agbakwala egbe na mgbago ka agbagbuchie ndị mmadụ. Onye na-agba egbe ọ na-agba ka ọ bụrụ palliative for COVID or whatever. You know, agbala egbe shed blood mmadụ wụcha naanị mgbago. Man, ejikwa eje Abuja ndị abụ ka asị na fa bụ am robbers also. Onwe things that you cannot do to your town. Onwe things onwe ife na-ama mmenwu to your town. Ime anya anyị obodo a bụ ejide onye ga na-agakwa, you may be making all the money. Ị na-asọkwụzi asọkwụ. Ị ma nwezi that support.
I want to do this. I want to say, let's look a bit to the future.
Okay.
And then see if we can come back. Let's look a bit to the future and determine where we want to go. Just like we looked a bit to the back. Look a bit to the future and determine where we want to go. Then we'll come back to the present and see what we need to do to get to that future. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
So what future would you want? What are you looking at? What future? How do you? Yes. What would you like to achieve now? For if you had the power, you had all the power.
For UMUERI.
Yes, for UMUERI now. As per these things,
I will make an effort to have democracy.
Yes.
In UMUERI, in every quarter. Okay?
Yes.
If possible, in every family. Democracy. You know, the things that you don't like, you say it out. Then solutions will begin to come. Because when you identify a problem, then the next thing is the solution point. So I'm looking forward to a better UMUERI, better educated, and better democratically stanced, you know, for the future. That is my wish.
So yes, so as per this issue of caretaker committee, transition, government of UMUERI, if you had the power to just wave a wand and all these things will be sorted out, what would you do?
Conduct an election immediately. Conduct an election. You know, it is coalition of the willing. You know, the gladiators will always contest.
Yes.
The apathetics may from time to time.
Yes.
Okay? So, conduct an election. And
that's the panacea.
Period. All these aberrations, makeshift, square egg, a square peg, round hole approach, no solution. Conduct an election. Conduct an election.
I think so too. But if we have agreed that from the history of our people, there
Not
has
all
not
the
been
people all the time.
that from our history of our people, at least for the past 4 or 5 tenures,
Okay.
that no government in UMUERI, no elected government has been able to hand over to another elected government.
We want to remove that leproid hand.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, do you think having an election will ensure? Because if you have an election now, the new government, elected government, will be taken over from a caretaker committee. Do you think that having an election will guarantee that they will have their government in peace and be able to conduct election to hand over to an elected government?
You know, we live on hope in this world. Hope. And we also live by faith. You know what I mean by that?
I agree.
So, the first thing is to have an election. The leproid hand that is causing this caretaker approach will eventually be asked to go home quietly and live in peace.
When my father and his age mates were in power in the 70s, in the 70s,
yes,
there was a coup against them.
Yes.
As far back, we're talking about a generation or two ago, there was a coup against them. There was concerned citizens. There were caucuses and things. They themselves were not able to hand over peacefully. We're talking about 30, 40
years ago.
So I find it, I will take some convincing that the sequence of election caretaker is because of any leprous hand. I agree, if there is a leprous hand, I think it is in the collective psyche of the UMUERI people. It is that it needs to be extirpated, but I see it's not from an individual, but from a collective thinking.
Tell me with whom you go, then I'll tell you whom you are. Okay? It's okay. Obodo nwere ọkụ kịta. But that's one ndị akpa obi. Never petrol, never bottle, never matches. Gwaba bido ebe ne, never ezigbo ego. Obodo enwere ọkụ. Alụ kpọtalụ alụ ibie.
Yes.
You know? Mmadụ chebele uche negatively. Wee cheta ka ya mee coup. Eziokwu nna gwa gị. Over ife na-enwere isi committee, my brother, committee of death. You know, ịnọlụ na-eche na-asị igwe amarakwa nna aka ka nye ya. Because in the long run, onye ahụ ga-benefit. Because that thing, I'm going to allow you to stand without taking it to the UMUERI. Maybe. Ọ dịkwa ka ife a ngwa gị ije kpọta ndị akpa obi emunye ọkụ. Mana how would I feel na ị batara obodo a akwụsị gị n'ama UMUERI sị gị na ị tụrụ ụtụ n'ala gị si paasị gị ma ọ sị gị yi ite akwa gị ma ọ bụ tọlụ taya moto gị.
Yes.
You know, it's not good. I ain't big about civilized somehow. You know? So, if I can now the leper hand will eventually die. You cannot cheat all the people all the time. I'm about no.
Yes.
If I'm in the 70s, okay?
Yes.
Somebody don't know other governments or patriotism club. We know the achievements of Ndirunano, yet Vegerao of a hood boundary line sign. Are they intact?
Yes.
Today, Mobolo, Waka, Williams, George. Also, now those who did not look in our faces have now all come out as men. How well their pride is with them.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Now songs of Sorok Odele. I want to Williams.
Yes.
He was shot. So Nandiebu na Kenya. Now that
in Mau
supermarket bombing by the Somalia rebels.
Okay.
Also, message you up George.
Yes.
It's a proper name.
Yes.
You know, just like on the two whatever.
Yes.
Chebeva.
Yes.
Great writers.
We read them in secondary school. One were book, one were devouring.
Yes, West African verse.
Yes.
I can go back.
So now, what would you say is the position as all of us are working towards peace? We are not working towards division.
Yeah.
Right? We were together, you, myself, and about 11 others at the Reconciliation Committee 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, and another is coming, another meeting
tomorrow.
Yes. So, how will you assess the efforts at creating peace now?
Peace is the greatest good.
Yes.
What if ebe udo dị ka ọganiru na-adị.
Ebe ịfụnanya dị, ebe afọ udo na-adị.
Yes. And by extension,
yes.
ọganiru.
Exactly.
So, peace. Onye ọbụla ga-etinye aka ka enwe peace. Mana ịma na ya na-enwe conditions for congruency in geometry. Okay, ma?
Yes.
So those conditions for congruency in geometry applies. Now I get my election. I ain't in the officers. No guarantees about their Navaga successful, but it is a hope. And they Gano Chiang are better than us.
It's a hope. It's a valid hope. It's a valid hope.
And now all I call it here in the belly. And all I call if on an agaroma. Nah. So the town moves on. The town is ours.
It's
ours. Are you getting me?
And don't worry, those lines.
And don't worry, those lines. Okay, what? Man, okay, follow. I
see
ostrich approach. Eh? And that's what better got quarter. I'm on your I know. One below going to be a poor.
Yes.
Man, all could be rapple. I got like I remember I got on your kulu. Could anyone I equal to me when I knew brought up. All the days I done Babu, I just go back. You know?
Yes.
So could I remember I got no way. You know? I've had my first daughter American mobile.
And that's what again?
Yes, nothing.
Yes.
I hope you go twice. Got up. Na election at Texas Christian University. I go twice. You know?
Yes.
So when I just have another, I talking about the question I can ask you. Could do any even answer? And when I answer you, in me with 20 million times, Nyamo all the money on earth. Mambo, because on easy lies the head that wears a crown. It's a saying.
It's a saying, and it's true. Yes.
So if you need intellectual advisors, not man, this is Kadibia, this is Dadafa. You know? Mania Canry. If you don't know me, Tiekula Canry at the cabinet. So the good guys are gone.
Does it mean you feel that the way a person's dress is, a person's height or something will...
No, it doesn't mean so. But if you invest in human capital, it will be an unknown.
What kind of investment in human capital will increase a man's height?
None.
To make it acceptable.
No.
If we begin to rate people by their height.
No.
And what kind of investment in human capital will make somebody to cut his hair like my own instead of leaving it afro like some others?
Or leaving it Bob Marley.
Or leaving Bob Marley. Wole Soyinka, I wouldn't wear Wole Soyinka's head. His hair.
That is his choice.
I wouldn't. That is his choice. But that doesn't make him any bit cerebral.
No. It does. It
doesn't make him any little.
He has invested so much in human capital that is a known anywhere in the intellectual world.
So what I'm saying is that the way a man chooses to wear his hair, it should not be an indicative of his intellectual or cerebral capacities.
True.
What would you say?
True. But we need to know, as a matter of scrutiny or screening, division, if you will. Check the cabinet in the Onitsha. Check you know, lawyers, professors. How if you need it to motivate the upcoming ones, you know,
how many professors do you have from UMUERI? Would you say? I've asked this question sometime and nobody could give me an answer. I know of only one. Who? Am I right?
Who?
Professor Ibeze. Yes.
One guy from UMUERI.
So if we have to rack our heads to come up with names of 3 professors in UMUERI,
we can.
We wouldn't. I can reel out 10 sitting here
from
right
one
now.
Family.
I can reel out 10 now. So don't you think it's an unfair comparison to talk about the?
I don't know. Unfair comparison. I don't know. But you don't listen to Mama. Yeah,
you got me on that one.
I see that.
You got me on that one.
So I got Bagotalono.
Yes.
Fabolo, our role model.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So that no man kind of ever in a bankata. Fana free nature, Makava and the future.
Yes.
Education.
So, Chief, what effort is being made now to bring peace? You see, because now, as now, if you remove all the maggots in fish, you will not have any fish. You see, and yes, so there's none of us that if we put a microscope to us, that will not come up with certain unacceptable things. But for us to eat that fish, we must withdraw a little and be a little bit less criticizing or less discerning about it. What I'm trying to say is that for us to get to that future of political stability, which is necessary for peace, which you yourself have said is necessary for Ganiru, for us to, it means that we need to remove our eyes from certain things, human faults, human things, so that we, frailties and things, because all of us have it, and forge ahead. What effort is being made now to cover up some of it? You know, the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sins.
True.
True. Even God is told that if God begins to mark all the iniquities, none of us, you will not stand.
I hear you well.
I will not stand.
I hear you very well.
Do you get me? Yeah. So for God to get us to heaven, he has to close his eyes. He must not mark iniquities. He allows love to cover a multitude of sins. So we must use the same standard for ourselves in UMUERI. No certain peoples, even in my family, among my children, I know some that are strong in this way, some that are not strong and things. I think one gift that I've had that's helped me in life, in business, in ministry, is my ability to look at people's strengths, not their failings, not their shortcomings, and build with them on the basis of their strength. So what effort is being made now to paper over these cracks so that we can all march forward to a united UMUERI?
A lot of groups that are calling for peace initiatives.
Yes.
The American Heritage be one of them. Then of course the panel I especially one of them.
Yes.
Okay, the no.
Yes. Yes.
And that was what took us to Oka. Somebody initiated it.
Yes.
Oh, the Nigerian ministry. Are you getting me?
Yes.
In fact, now, the meeting association of President General.
Yes.
Now, Makana, he had a lot to do at home.
Yes.
So to that extent, I look forward. You know, with hope. Now, government got define certain things which already they have started defining in the course of the question.
Okay, government is already working.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
Point blank with a code for Gua edict.
Yeah.
The man see actually bata.
So the government process is on.
The government process is on.
And within our community
and
also.
Within our community.
Our own process,
Christian
internal processes.
Community.
Yes.
The Christian community.
Of which I'm a leader, yes.
All right.
Yes.
What I know, Aukunu, Keguan, Vivunu Dale. All the self-explanatory.
Yes.
The UMUERI group. One bit of effort.
Yes.
No, onye agwalukwe. Emalo no koku ehuka. Onye agwalukwe. Emalo no koku ehuka. When the US after their own. It's unfortunate. It's your cool. No, to give an ebelakwa.
It's well.
I'm telling you.
It's well.
So I thought to aneme. Well, I like obodo ni aboko. No,